All right, Griffin, we have Blood and Guts next week, and a big focus of tonight's show was promoting that match. The other big news is another title, another singles title in AEW. We'll get to that second. Had some history about that title. Brought back some warm fuzzies for Tony Khan, and I think a lot of people in the audience. But do we need another singles title? So we'll talk about that. But let's table that till the second section of this show. I thought that they did a nice job making Blood and Guts next week feel like a big deal. We had a graphic telling you about it. We had all the women standing in the ring, all the baby faces opposite of all the heels at ringside after a big fight. So it kind of had a visual of everyone who's going to be in the women's version. And in the men's side, and we also had a pretty clear picture of everybody there with the brawl, and we had the qualifying matches, and they held our hand. I mean, they told us how it works. One might say Tony Schiavone was a little off on saying once you win the advantage, you have one-man advantage for the whole match. Because every 2 minutes or whatever, it evens out. So it's like half the match you have the advantage, but you never have a disadvantage. I get what he meant. But overall, no, I thought it was a show with focus and purpose. And the matches, every match had some meaning, and all the matches were pretty good. What'd you think?
Yeah, it's a good setup show. You have to have a reason to want to watch the show, and you have to have the episode that builds to the one you really want to watch. So that makes the next episode even better.
What do you think was the top hook from a storyline standpoint on either the men or women to build it up? Because obviously part of the hype is just the framing of it with it's the most dangerous match that ever, Excalibur saying that, and all kind of thing. And that's fine. You should say that. But in terms of a specific storyline hook, I had talked this week about, I think it was just today in my Wade Keller bulletin for VIP members, about how I was kind of looking for clues that maybe Moxley was on the outs with the Death Riders because he's been having some issues with submissions, and maybe Pac would take over. When Pac was attacking Darby, I was like, is Moxley going to think he's taking it too far, which would be kind of weird given how far Moxley goes. So, but I was looking for something. Did you notice anything in that regard or otherwise where you come out of the show going, that's one of the key things I'm going to look for in a Blood and Guts match next week?
I didn't read that into anything tonight.
Yeah.
So, that didn't give me that impression.
Yep. I was looking for it. I didn't see it, but did anything at all in the men's or women's Blood and Guts at the end of the show land where you think viewers are going, it's not just that there's going to be blood and guts all over the place, and it's not just violence, it's not just a cool format of a match, but there's a key storyline here that I think is going to develop? I don't have one, but it doesn't mean that you can't refresh my memory or kind of point something out I didn't notice.
To a certain degree, I think the women are just throwing them all in there, and they all have their stories that kind of intersect into that, but there's not a reason that they would want to team up and do this match. For the men, there's a reason why they've drawn some lines, grabbed some people that's going to help their side to fill out the team. And, Darby's the leader of that, and I think the chaos that Darby brings is the selling point.
And the intensity of Pac is a selling point. I mean, this seems like a match where he can really shine. They didn't forward it or drop any big hints, but I am looking out for the potential of Pac. He's got this new look. There's an intensity. He was gone for a while. Maybe trying to take over the Death Riders. It might be a long story arc. It might not be instant. But I am interested in if that is a direction they're going. And I don't know that they are, but it's maybe it's just me conjuring up something to make this a little more interesting than just,
the group has to evolve.
Yeah. And I'm kind of, again, I wrote about this and talked about it on the Wade Keller news bulletin earlier today for VIP members, kind of a new feature I've been doing the last couple of weeks, 3-4 times a week. And I was like, I want to see Moxley and Darby as a team, as baby faces. Like, I think that would be good. I want a good story for us to get there. They got to tell a good story so it's believable.
Yeah.
I think the pieces are in place loosely for that story to be told. And I want them to go after the tag titles. Like, I think Darby's already been at the, main evented with Moxley. I don't think you want Darby going after Hangman's world title. I don't think you want him going after one of the many secondary titles. Mox has already been there. So I kind of like going into 2026, having this top babyface team and have Mox in a fresh environment. And one of the things I talked about is Moxley, we complained about it when he was trying to get over as a heel, but his mission was sort of admirable, something fans could nod along to and go, he believes in AEW. He wants it to be better than some of the people who are complacent to take it for granted. It didn't work to get heel heat, but it can be the foundation for an effective babyface turn. I might be way ahead of myself. That might not be where they're going, but I'm kind of hoping for it.
I do think that's what I meant by they need to evolve. It has been kind of stale, same thing. And if they don't have the AEW title hostage, what is their purpose? Like, they were together to hold that belt hostage, to say only the person who can get through all of this is worthy to have that belt.
Yep.
And he's lost the match and rematch versus Hangman, and now they've got their beef with Darby. But now it's kind of time that the group's got to evolve. It's got to go somewhere.
I had a little bit of an issue, and I talked about this with Rich Fan on the flagship Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Podcast flagship yesterday, of Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong being in the match. And I kind of hedged a little because War Games doesn't always have 5 main eventers. I mean, it has a history, and obviously Blood and Guts. I'll probably call it War Games by mistake because it's based on that. Now we have the old Georgia-based national title in the mix. I'm going to be doing retro references and slipping up here and there.
I'm the old WCW fan, so yes. Yeah.
So I guess do Kyle O'Reilly and Roderick Strong feel like they're involved enough? I think the announcers talked about what's been going on with them and the Death Riders. I thought it was good that they did that. So they have a reason to be in it, but they're just so kind of Collision veteran indie guy, I see Blood and Guts as an opportunity to give somebody, and I don't know who it would be, so maybe it's unfair for me to say this without a specific, but to put some fresh people in there, to give them a chance to mix and mingle. It's kind of a big theme for me the last couple of weeks. I think in WWE it's a problem, in AEW we want some fresh faces. Look at the excitement, and it's not about the politics. It's just about the reality of what's going on in New York with the mayor race. Mamdani is like electrifying the youth vote in New York City. And I'm like, there's something about just a fresh face, bringing a bunch of energy, being brash, that gets people going. And I think WWE and AEW that's not a strength right now or a focus of their booking. So when I saw Moxley stomp on O'Reilly's leg tonight at ringside, I was like, maybe they're going to write O'Reilly out, and maybe there's somebody they can put in there who would be kind of a fresh ingredient. Hadn't thought it through enough because the show just aired of who that would be. But what do you think about O'Reilly and Strong being in it? Does it weaken the match, or it's like, no, these types of matches always have a couple sort of filler guys?
I've always not been a big fan of those guys. I've never really been able to get on board with them. So I automatically would rather have somebody else in, but who fills out the babyface side? We've got those two. We've got Darby. Who's the other two? Refresh me there.
So we've got the qualifying matches. I'm trying to think of what the other qualifying match is on Saturday, because
the team, the babyface team.
No, I know. I'm looking for that. I was thinking the other qualifying match would get us in there. Let me just bring up the
kind of the point I'm getting to is,
make the point.
Do you need that worker that's going to go the whole match? You always had the Arn Anderson go in first because he was going to be the guy that could glue the match together from start to finish. And is that their purpose, is going in first and kind of being that talent?
Right. So I've got my mind in a couple places. I'm trying to think of a name who would be good to get a boost from this. And I don't like that there isn't an obvious person coming to mind. So I kind of throw it at the chat too. If you could replace, again, I'm not saying O'Reilly's out of the match. I don't want to read too much into that. But who could get a bump from being in that match? And if not, what is wrong with AEW 6+ years in not having this influx of some exciting new talent? Because it is,
they bring a fresh face in, it's kind of the shiny new toy syndrome, and briefly. They don't last long.
Exactly. Yeah, and it's Orange Cassidy was in the other qualifier, and then Mark Briscoe too. So Darby leading the team, and then O'Reilly and Roderick are kind of in the back row in the graphic, and then Orange Cassidy and Mark Briscoe, understandably, are kind of flanking Darby from behind. I am a fan of Roderick Strong's matches. I'm a fan of Kyle O'Reilly's body of work. I was a big fan of his as sort of maybe a next Daniel Bryan type. He got that chance in NXT. It just didn't work out very well. Maybe a little too late or something. And then he's just been all over the place with kind of dorky mannerisms and stuff. And it was on purpose. He was self-aware he was doing it, but it just, I don't take him seriously. Roderick Strong did comedy stuff. I don't really take him seriously. So I don't know. I mean, I don't want to belabor that point. It's more just sort of a little sidebar like idea where it's like, if you have this match, it'd be nice to inject somebody new into it instead of just having a couple stale, long-term good hand indie guys who have kind of peaked in there. But at the same time, you got Wheeler Yuta and Danny Garcia in there, and they kind of are the parallels of O'Reilly and Strong. So I mean, ultimately, I'm fine with it. I'm just not in love with it. Yeah. What do you think about? Because in the chat, Real Legend asks, why are we doing 3 matches to decide who has the advantage? Well, I like it because it's inevitably going to be 2-1 or 3-0. Someone's going to get an advantage, and I like that. I mean, they got a lot of TV time to fill.
It goes back to the whole issue with War Games. It always works best when the heel has the advantage. It never works when the babyface has the advantage. So it's all about figuring out who has the top spot. So, but in the past, it's just been a coin flip. So, and it seems like the heels played that coin flip the same way I'd play a coin flip with my kids, which is heads I win, tails you lose, because the heels always won the coin flip. Yeah. So I like that there's something to that, but at the same time, it's always been an issue of mine with War Games or Blood and Guts that the heel always gets the advantage. So I would love to see when we go into that, hey, it's time for Blood and Guts this year. We want you so bad, we're giving you the advantage. Like, let the baby faces say that they're coming from behind when we inevitably know it's going to be the heels getting the advantage.
Yes. So taking what you said and also Real Legend going, couldn't we just get the advantage with one match? You could, but I mean, I don't see any downside to having 3.
Time to fill, and it puts it lets you know who's going to be in there and gets them over, and their key moves as they move into there, as they win, they get their finish over and get to be strengthened with momentum going into the match.
I thought it was interesting. Excalibur at one point goes, well, what if this Darby match is a draw? And then would the third match be for 2 points? And I'm like, don't even, if you're not.
I thought that was don't go there. Don't assume what the rules would be. Just say it'd be up to somebody else to make that call.
Yeah. Like, I mean, there's part of me that's like, okay, account for the possibility of a double count out or a draw. I mean, I kind of like that, but I almost don't think speculate out loud. Just go, Excalibur should go. And by the way, Tony Khan says, in the case of a draw or a double count out, then if it were a tie, there would be a coin flip. Or if there were a tie, we'd do a 4th match on Collision on standby or on the, like, I don't know, come up with something or don't introduce. It felt like a little bit of a distraction. I'm normally like in favor of that kind of detail work. Yeah, it's kind of a weird direction to go. By the way, there is no rule that says that, and now we're getting like a little pedantic here, but there's no rule that says a team has to have the advantage every time. You could have one team. It could be kind of like when your draft, you get the first pick, then the other person gets the next 2, and the other person get the next 2. So somebody who wins the advantage could decide, do you want to have 2-on-1 the first time? Or do you want to have 2 times in a row after that where you get the advantage? Like you could just go every other.
Yeah, you don't have to stick to the same rules. Why don't you could have a coin flip each time and see who gets the advantage. So I think it would be, I also think it would benefit them to change the rules up a little bit, since they're doing it in the same month that WWE is literally doing War Games. So spread it out or change it up a little bit. And they do change it up with the blood and gut weapon aspect, but that's not the type of change up I'm looking for.
Yeah. Well, there's some positive vibes. Real Legend goes, so a snake order, Wade, and Zach Barber goes, I like that idea, Wade. Anyway, let's pause, introduce the show, and we'll get on to some other topics from tonight's episode. This is the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show for Wednesday, November 5th, 2025. I'm Wade Keller, host of the show, editor, publisher, and founder of the long-running Pro Wrestling Torch Weekly newsletter, the latest paper copy, hot off the presses today. Here is the copy center, my Saturday's main event report, and my endnotes commentaries, and Greg Parks' column, which was he always anchors page 10. Oh yeah, his column headline is "How does this Mercedes belt collecting angle end?" Detailed look at a bunch of possibilities. That newsletter available as a paper copy edition if you want to look forward to going to your mailbox, do a little old school, or you can also read it in PDF or all text format with a VIP membership. PWTorch.com/GoVIP gives you full details on that. I'm also introduced a couple weeks ago a new thing. I actually did it about 10 years ago for a while. Landscape view, one-page PDFs looking at the news of the day with a commentary. What I see is kind of the top story or the thing that I want to write about, some news items, some random thoughts. It's a cool new feature. And then I do an audio version of it too. So whether you might bounce back and forth between it, but it's a PDF you can look at on your tablet or your laptop. It'll just fill the screen. And I like the structure of doing that for me. It gives me something to kind of fill and hold myself to a certain word count. And then I do an audio update based on it, where I pretty much read it, add a little aside here and there, and it runs about 16 minutes. And so if you want to kind of keep up on news 3 to 4 times a week and get my take on things, the things that I've been thinking about or talking to other people about, it's a new VIP feature, and it comes with VIP membership. PWTorch.com/GoVIP. Oh, it's also available in an all text format, just like the newsletter. So if you want to read it on your phone, you don't have to open a PDF or listen to audio too. You can, so for 3 formats basically, to get the same content. Generally 3 to 4 times a week is kind of what I'm aiming for. It's a new feature. I call it sort of in beta mode. We'll see how it goes. But so far, I've gotten really good feedback on it. So lots of cool stuff comes with VIP membership, ad-free and ad-free website, commercial-free versions of our free shows, and a ton of VIP exclusive podcasts, and nearly 4 decades of archives, and on and on. Cool stuff. Check out details at PWTorch.com/GoVIP. We'd love your support. We're small business, family business. 4 generations have in some form or fashion worked for the business over the years. And so if you want to redirect some of your money from corporations you might not like to something that you have a passion for, just like we do, we'd really appreciate your support during these times. All right, we are here to talk AEW Dynamite here on the YouTube channel for PWTorch, as we do every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday night after Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown. Those are the shows I host. We also have the NXT post show on Tuesday nights, live streaming on our YouTube channel. And after PLEs and pay-per-views on weekends, we've got Brandon LeClaire and Greg Parks usually hosting those. They're all available on demand on YouTube, along with the Pro Wrestling Then and Now shows. And some of our shorts are up there, too, if you want to just look at snippets of us talking about key topics on these shows. So subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't yet, and leave some comments, and set an alarm for when we go live. We also have podcast versions of everything we do, including these shows on YouTube, on the Wade Keller Pro Wrestling Post Show feed, and then we also have our Wade Keller Pro Wrestling podcast. Different from the post shows, it's audio only. That includes our weekly flagship. Yesterday, I was joined by PWTorch VIP analyst Rich Fan. We spent close hour and a half plus talking about key issues of the week. We try to hit some eclectic topics in the on the flagship, in addition to the big main topics from Raw, Dynamite, and SmackDown. So check that out if you haven't yet, and subscribe on the podcast side of things. It is free. Just search Wade Keller when you see the blue logo, click subscribe, and when you see the red logo, click subscribe to that, and you are on board. And while you're at it, search PWTorch to subscribe to the PWTorch Daily Cast feed with different shows each day of the week with different themes, different hosts, AEW, WWE, and more. Again, just search PWTorch for that. And then you'll also see a charcoal gray logo pop up. That is our PWTorch free sample feed. And that will have some free samples of my Wade Keller news bulletins over the next week or two also, if you want to see what that's all about. Chris Griffin is my co-host. Griffin, welcome. You are a contributor to PWTorch. Tell people about your contributions and tell us about the background behind you, because you have the coolest background of any of our co-hosts. I will stand by that. I will fight for I will those are fighting words if someone disagrees with me. Talk about where you are and what you do also. It's really cool.
It cost me a lot of money to get there to have that background. So
yeah.
It's still costing me money. I write mostly weekly the top 5. I just kind of look at what's going on in wrestling today. Last week was looking at the preparation that AEW failed to do to line up Hangman's opponents. And where are they going with the Hangman character? Too often in wrestling, they build to the moment and the big win, but don't have stories lined up for that person afterwards. And that's where they build the legacy. So the background behind me is part of my store. So if you are in Colorado or if you want to visit Colorado Springs, I am in the Citadel Mall in Colorado Springs, and it's a retail store. And it's all about being retro. So Nerdstalgia is the name of the store, and it's a what are you nerdy about kind of place. So this is part of the wrestling section behind me, where you can shop for different things. But whether you're into physical media for movies, music, video games, or the collectibles and toys that go with them, that's what we do. And just kicked off the What Are You Nerdy About podcast on YouTube. So at
Awesome.
Nostalgia Shop on there as well, I interview people about what they're nerdy about. And sometimes it'll be wrestling and sometimes it'll be other things.
That's awesome. Nerdstalgia. I'm amazed you got that. Like that. It wasn't just take. I don't want to get you. Hopefully you're fine.
No,
I mean, like that's such a cool name. Like congrats on that too.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. All right, cool. If you want to join us in the chat, by the way, through a couple chat comments, I'll continue to look at the chat room. We got a great group of regulars there, and we got new people joining us regularly. Comment on our show as we do it. Sometimes we'll throw to you for help if I can't remember something or looking for an opinion on something. So it's fun to join us live on our PWTorch YouTube channel for that. You can also email the show, wadekellerpostshow@gmail.com. And you can also join us as a caller. The link to be a caller is in my TV report on Dynamite at PWTorch on the website. So check that out. All right. Well, actually, I'll let Zach Barber kick things off with a super chat. Thank you, Zach. You don't have to do that, but I appreciate it. Super chats are welcome. I mean, thank you, everybody, sincerely. Zach says, I appreciate Tony Khan's respect for wrestling history, especially after decades of Vince McMahon trying to pretend WWE is the only company to ever exist. But we still don't need another title. It's overkill.
Yeah.
I threw my hands up. In my written report, I said, I can't fight this anymore. It's too much. I'm just going to cheerlead it. I'm going to say more titles mean better wrestling, more viewers, more championships means AEW is going to take it to the next level. What can stop them now? They should add more titles.
Yeah.
More titles are better. I can't. I'm just.
It's so frustrating because the titles trip over each other as it is.
Yep.
Hangman could have been a 2-belt champion by the end of the night, winning the 6-man trios championship. So, and his first opponent out of his title win was the TNT champion. So, again, we too many titles. They trip over each other. They mean less than they should. Mm-hmm. This is your biggest piece of talent, and your biggest piece of talent is only your biggest piece of talent if it means the most. Your world title, any of your titles, they don't get injured. They don't age out. They don't have contract disputes. If they mean something, that is your brand more than any other wrestler.
Yep.
That's why I cannot believe they're calling John Cena the last real champ, but that's a whole other thing. That title is the legacy that goes. That title carries in AEW. That title carries 2 Hangman runs, and it carries CM Punk, and it carries Samoa Joe. It carries all their legacies with it. And then when you water it down, the WCW title became David Arquette was part of its legacy.
Yep.
Vince Russo was part of its legacy. And when you have so many titles, what are these titles' legacies? And they struggle to make the titles mean anything. I'm still waiting to see Fletcher make the TNT title really mean something, because that's a huge opportunity for him, because Christian Cage did. When Christian Cage had the TNT title, that title meant as much or more. I was more interested in that than the AEW championship.
The idea of the TNT title meaning something because it's the only other title, that my sarcasm or whatever, my throwing my hands up and giving up aside, that would just be so much better. Like if there was And it's what I grew up with. I mean, I grew up with territories where there's one men's singles title. You know, the AWA didn't have a secondary title until later on. They created a title for Greg Gagne to have the AW International title as a secondary title to the AWA World title.
But then you have to build stories around character and feud and story.
That's the thing. It is. It's absolutely a shortcut, and that's why, like when I started watching the WWF in the 80s, and they had the World Champ, but also the Intercontinental title, and the Intercontinental title became my favorite title because it was the one that changed hands. It wasn't a foregone conclusion. Hulk Hogan was going to be WWF champ, Ric Flair was going to be NWA champ, but the secondary titles could change hands, and they were for the good workers who had not main evented in the world title scene before. It was an unwritten rule. Yeah. Whether it was Don Morocco, Tito Santana, Randy Savage, eventually others, Bret Hart was a stepping stone for him.
For me, it was the TV title in WCW. That was the Arn Anderson, Steven Regal belt. They were going to go out there as almost the open challenge where they would have a different challenger every 2 weeks.
Yes.
But as somebody who couldn't afford pay-per-views, you'd get to see those on Worldwide, and on Saturday night, they would change hands.
And the titles could have, like you just laid out, specific identities, whether they're explicitly written into the structure or the rules of how they're defended and operated, or it's just through pattern recognition. That's how they're treated. But I like the idea of, and it's kind of what the U.S. Title Open Challenge sort of becomes, which is a TV title. I like the idea of defending it every other week. You have a contendership match 1 week, on the off week, and then they face the champion. The champion has the advantage because they don't have to necessarily wrestle the week beforehand, whereas the challenger has to. So it could be that sort of a built-in excuse for why the champion typically wins, but eventually they lose, and then every other week that new champ defends it. That's structurally different than the world title, which is generally not defended on TV. So the WWF structure, I want to go back to that, with the world champ, clearly the top star, and then a secondary title. It made that secondary title, it made it possible to be the reason you followed the WWF. Is I want to see Randy Savage and Tito Santana with their good matches. I want to see Ricky Steamboat. And when you don't, but if there were 3 or 4 or 5 other singles titles, it just wouldn't have meant anything to me. And I don't understand Tony Khan's lack of recognition of what I think is just obviously so, which is, it creates a mockery. Like Adam Kidd in the chat says, I have no idea what to say. Edward Sladex says, yeah, another title so exciting. This will really change the trajectory of AEW. Just a second. I want to read a couple more here while I've got them up. Derek Mitchell says, yes, another nostalgic title from the NWA days. Derek Mitchell, sarcastic as, I'm surprised we haven't heard an announcement of the Brass Knuckles Championship. And then this is the one I was looking for, Griffin. Fan Blast goes, when they announced another championship, I almost burst out loud laughing in amazement. I mean, it almost is beyond parody. I mean, really, when Tony Schiavone's standing in the ring, I hadn't heard about the social media thing. He's like, we have a new national title in AEW. And I'm like, no, this I mean, I don't know if I burst out laughing, but I mean, I might have done a spit take.
Yeah. And just weeks after they united 2 titles to say we have too many titles and we're going to unite these, like, why not just keep those 2 titles and keep those legacies going?
Yeah. I don't know what, I mean, this does play into, unfortunately for Tony Khan, the notion that AEW is just kind of a playground for Tony Khan. And there's this title he knows has a history. Tony Schiavone. I mean, first of all, if they're going to introduce the title, I like that it's a title with his heritage. And I like that Tony Schiavone is around to introduce it. And I like that MVP talked about, past champions. And I mean, it's cool. I have memories of everything they talked about. So in that sense, it was good. But that doesn't make it, like, those are the feelings I think Tony Khan has too. Like, wouldn't it be cool to talk about an AEW first international title? We can bring up these names who held it. Well, right, but is it also ridiculous? Yes. Just because it's kind of cool to watch happen. It's why a lot of AEW booking feels like a 14-year-old going, wouldn't it be cool if I did this week? And there needs to be sort of like an adult counterpoint to this going, but what's the downside of suffocating someone with a plastic bag? How do we welcome him onto the TV show as a paid member of our roster when he tried to suffocate his opponent? On and on and on. I've talked about all those things. And like, There should be somebody reining in the titles. Yeah.
As somebody who sells nerdy collectibles.
Yep.
All right. I'm going to make our background a little cooler here in a second, but the lighting was terrible. There's that old school Wrestling Stars board game.
Yep.
But up there where the lighting is glaring is
Yep.
the ECW title.
Yep.
The WWE Undisputed. In another case, I have the Macho Man red logo Intercontinental. I have the WWE Spinner. I've sold the U.S. Championship. I've sold the World Heavyweight Ric Flair Championship. I own a World Television title from the NWA.
That's cool.
You know how many requests I've had for an AEW belt?
Oh, how many?
0.
Wow.
I mean, I had somebody in here the other day asking me if I can get him a WCW US Championship. Because we can have custom belts made. Plug nerdstalgia.shop.
Plug away. I'm not one to talk.
Have any belt made for you.
Yep.
As a replica, I've gotten 0 requests for any of the AEW championships because what do they mean? There's no fandom that says that's the belt I want on my mantle. You can't afford very many of these things, although we sell them for $250 plus shipping. You can't afford that many of these things or have that much space for these things. So the AEW is not the one anybody's asking about.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know what to say, but there are other priorities I think Tony Khan and AEW should have other than introducing a new title. I mean, it is kind of parody at this point. Pickens CJ says, when Lashley wins the national title, it will be the equivalent of him winning the ECW title. I saw there's an ECW title on the top shelf, isn't there?
Yes.
That you just showed? Yeah. So
yeah,
I was like,
it so much I had to order another one for myself. It's gorgeous.
Yeah. Derek Mitchell says, I'm surprised we haven't heard the announcement of a brass knuckles
I love
championship.
That popped me.
Yep. And then someone else chimed in here with another idea. A real legend says they should add a women's trios title. Tony, I hope you're listening. Come on.
What about the hardcore championship? Well, then they'd have to follow rules during other title matches. So,
and then JC Scooby Griffin says thumb championships next. LMAO. All right. I mean, I just don't think you want to be the subject of mockery. And I know WWE has a lot of belts, but I mean, and then you have like ROH without any
makes sense.
Yeah, ROH without explanation, headlining Collision. What is ROH? Like, does the average viewer, does this, they don't plug it. It's like, how do you even watch it? Every few months you hear about an ROH pay-per-view. There's just weird, because so much of this is a combination of a few things, but it's Tony Khan reliving his childhood as an adult, the nostalgia he had as a teenager and in his 20s. He's trying to just kind of recreate them. And that can work for you, by the way, having a promoter who's a real fan and has a passion for the past. I mean, it's just about editing. It's not that in and of itself that's bad.
Does he have nostalgia for recreating a messy product on TNT and TBS?
Well, maybe. I mean, there's some patterns there, some things, that would give you that make you think that was the case. Yeah. So, but also he really likes really good in-ring wrestling, and that's the thing. I mean, it's Tony Khan nostalgia wrestling with really good state-of-the-art in-ring wrestling, with a wide variety of styles. And it's enough for people, but, for them, well, I mean, they drew what? They were in a building.
Fan base.
Yeah, I mean, they had like 1,400 people in the building tonight. It was also the most they could put in that venue. It looked really good. By the way, they did a great job filming that building tonight. It did not look small or minor league to me. The opening shot from the upper deck was one of the better. They had to get a camera way up in a different spot than normal, and it looked great. The angles were great. So it was a nice wrestling venue, and it didn't feel small to me like sometimes 1,500 people, give or take, does. But still, they're running really small buildings right now for a reason, and it's not because they don't have enough title belts. It's, that's not going to solve the issue of them running really small buildings compared to where they were when they first started. By the way, Derek Mitchell has this post. MVP mistakenly said AEW is creating international championship and mentioned Paul Orndorff, Dusty Rhodes, Jack Briscoe, Wild McDaniel, and Nikita Koloff, who unified the national and U.S. title in 1986. I didn't pick up on that. He called it the international title.
I didn't catch that either.
Yeah, I didn't catch that either, but good catch on that one. Fanblast says, is there no one in the back who can just walk up to Tony and take him to the side and go, hey, man, this is a bad idea, and here's why about those titles? So my understanding, and I'm serious, Fanblast, is if you tried that in the middle of that sentence, Tony Khan would jump in and he would talk to you for 15 minutes, and then he would say he's got to go do something else. Like, I mean, he is enthusiastic about the product, and if you say something that triggers a thought in him, he will talk. But it's not like a conversation, and then it's I'm busy, I got to go do something else, and there's no malice in it. It's just he's so passionate and intense, and it's like, oh, okay, let me tell you why I'm doing this, and then he'll have some random thoughts that kind of support it or go off in different directions, and then it's on to the next thing. I mean, it functionally it's not ideal, but part of why AEW has succeeded to the degree that it has is because it's mostly because of Tony Khan, the talent he has assembled, the nostalgia for WCW and ECW that is a big part of the product. But there are some weaknesses, and being able to, there are people who are frustrated, and I know multiple people, not just two, like handfuls of people who have talked about their frustrations in dealing with him and trying to get him to change course. And it's just that as a leader and as a promoter, that's not a personality trait that is on the strength category for him. It's on the weakness category for him. He has collaboration, but it's usually not. It's people who kind of help execute a vision, not trying to talk him out of something or steer him in a different direction, because his enthusiasm takes over. People have seen him. He's an enthusiastic guy.
I wish there was somebody he respected, like a Bryan Danielson, that could sit down and be like, look, no, we're not moving on until we talk about how many titles and why do they matter and when is this going to matter. Like, there's got to be somebody he respects that just puts their foot down and says, Tony, there's some metrics we really got to look at.
Yeah, I know. Well, I know. I mean, there's people who thought they'd be that person.
Yeah.
And then
I've been there. I've been that person with enthusiasm.
Yeah. Adam Kidd says, I couldn't work for Tony. Derek Mitchell says, it's great that Tony is a fan and loves wrestling, but some of his ideas need to be reeled in. Yeah, I mean, true. So Zach Barber says, regarding the number of titles, WWE has 10 titles, AEW has 8, counting the new one.
Yeah.
Now, WWE has 3 brands, 3 different shows, and they have too many titles. They do. In NXT especially has too many titles for a developmental system. You know, multiple women's titles. It's too much. But at the same time, and maybe this is where you're going, Griffin. AEW is one ecosystem. WWE is 3. And I don't know if Zach, you're counting the ROH titles that get mixed in or not. You can let me know if you are. But that just confuses things more, because it's not even an ecosystem that has an acknowledged structure or place to the average Dynamite viewer. They don't even know what it is or how to watch it. It just sort of shows up now and then. At least with Raw and SmackDown and NXT, it's clear they each have a night of the week and a show and a platform that they're on. So it is different because they're all crowded into one ecosystem of Dynamite and Collision. Griffin, yeah.
The structure and the meaning of the belts on each, brand, even on NXT, which I agree. You could have NXT, NXT Women's, NXT Tag, and that's enough.
Yep.
But every brand has its champion, its up-and-coming workhorse champion, its tag team champion, and on men and women's sides. They all make sense. It's a lot of belts, but they all have meaning and purpose. For one show to have more than 2 singles belts, I mean, maybe 3. I mean, WCW had the cruiserweight that was over with the WCW and, you know, the World and US and the cruiserweight. It had its uniqueness. The X Division has its uniqueness. The Hardcore Championship had its uniqueness.
Yep.
But then it became too many. And what did the European Championship mean when the Hardcore Championship was introduced?
Yep. Well, it is a tremendous point, because it's not just how many titles you have. It's, do they have a distinct differentiating purpose?
What's the United Continental Champion? Like, what is that? It's a main event, former world champion, but it's not placed at the AEW World Championship, but it's not quite a TV or an undercard championship. Like, what's the point of that belt?
So in WWE, and Zach clarified, and I did the math, and it's obvious too. He's not even talking about NXT. He's just talking about Raw and SmackDown, because you got the 2 world men's titles, and the 2 women's world titles. And then you have 2 secondary championships, but they're each assigned to a brand. So a secondary women's belt and men's belt on each brand. So 4 singles titles, 2 men, 2 women, one's major, 1 secondary. There's structure to that. And then you have the tag team titles, the men's and women's. So I get like that there's quantity, but that's why I'm really glad you made the point you did, Griffin, because in WWE, there aren't 2 secondary titles on Raw. Yeah. There's one. There's one major one secondary one, and then there's tag team for men and women. In AEW, it's what differentiates any of these belts from each other, and they've never even tried.
And why is the TBS championship defended on TNT or pay-per-view?
Right. Yep. I never liked when TV titles went to pay-per-view, even though pay-per-view was on TV, and they would get defended on house shows. That was even worse. Like the whole point of a TV title is it's defended on TV all the time. Like
in a short 10-minute time limit. The speed title. There's one they can get rid of.
Did Zach forget about that, by the way? I don't think Zach. Did you include that, Zach? Maybe you did. All right.
No one's requested that or the 24/7 championship either.
No. Zach says he didn't introduce, or he wasn't talking about the speed title, although that's mostly on NXT these days or Twitter. So maybe he just wanted to stick to Raw and SmackDown, and I get that. Okay, a couple other chat comments maybe here. Otherwise, we'll get to Rude Dog, who wants to talk. Let's see. AEW, where titles mean nothing. That's JC Scooby. Derek Mitchell says, why Tony Khan has created Western States Heritage, Mid-Atlantic, and National Tag Team titles and Georgia Championship. By the way, just so people, this is not an exclusive problem for just AEW. There's been too many titles in different promotions and territories over the years.
My favorite crap title was the Lance Storm, if I can remember it, Saskatchewan Hardcore International title.
Yep. And that was, but that was making fun of there being too many titles. So the idea that because other companies have done it, that we're going to use that as justification for Tony doing it. No, it was a bad idea then. We criticized it. If you live through it, you're critical of it. And you don't just give in because it was done before and go, well, we might as well just never point out that it's a bad idea because this bad idea was done before. Let's see. Is there anything else? Fanblast did want to note earlier about Blood and Guts and Kyle O'Reilly. He said they've told the story pretty concisely that Kyle has Moxley's number. And that's what I said. They created a backstory and the announcers brought it up. And I like that. I just don't think O'Reilly and Strong are ideal in this match because they've been defined down so much. And I'm saying it's sort of my thing the last few weeks. I'm looking for opportunities to put somebody fresh into a position where they can get a rub from the position they're in and be taken more seriously. I just don't have a list of those. It's like not Dante Martin's can't be that guy. Like he's been defined down. Like everybody's just been sort of defined down enough that you think unfortunately it's not a list.
Part of the title situation is because Tony wants to build all of these main eventers and not have to have people lose and interact.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because everyone's in their own ecosystem. The
Codyverse was separate when he had the TNT title.
Yep.
The Continental Championship has just kind of been Okada, yeah.
Yep.
On him. And it seems like this national championship is there for Lashley because Lashley's incredible. He should be chasing gold. But then, I don't want to take away from the Hangman story, so we can't have them crossing into universes. So it's like this multiverse of world championships.
Yeah. I don't have an answer for who should be in that match, and I think that in and of itself is a problem. So maybe I should go, maybe O'Reilly and Strong are the best options available, because I don't think you want to put like Jack Perry and Luchasaurus in there because they got their thing going because they're in their little bubble with the Bucks, and that's right. So I don't have an answer, but that's part of the problem. There should be some young guys who are ready to move up, and AEW has the same mix of people. There's not a lot of new blood and prospects coming in and getting people excited.
No, because I think when they have too many top stars and they create titles.
Exactly. Yes.
And that's where the crossover there goes. It's like there's no creating someone new, and the closest they've done is Hangman. And Hangman, that was a fantastic moment at All In, but since then, what?
Yeah. No, exactly.
Yeah.
Let's see. Ducky says, I don't think modern promoters think that way, any of them. Maybe they should, but they all want to sell their titles and will introduce new belts and a new design any chance they get. All right, let's go to Rude Dog giving us a call here, one of our regulars. Rude Dog, good to see you. You got the wrestling t-shirt back on. It looks like Bruiser Brody.
Yeah,
that's correct. Nice to talk to you. Nice to talk to you, Wade and Griffin. Nice to meet you. So, I mean, you were saying, hey, they really like shot the crowd really well tonight, but I was like kind of flabbergasted when I saw it was like 1,300 so people there. I'm just like, and it's in Houston. It's not like in the middle of nowhere or anything. Like, what is going on here? Like, how do they have such small crowds? Like, it's just like baffling to me. What do you think?
Well, they had 1,348 according to WrestleTix, and it's every seat they made available. The building can hold more, but not with the ring and staging and all that. So, I mean, I remember Paul Heyman telling me way back in the ECW days, he'd rather turn away people at the door and have the perception of a hot ticket in a small venue than be in a big venue where everyone's sitting around, even if it's 500 more people or 200 more people or 2,000 more people. But if there's thousands of empty seats, it looks like you thought you were more popular than you are. Now, that said, Rude Dog, you would like to think AEW would be confident they could sell out a 5,000 or 6,000 seat building or make a 20,000 seat building look respectable, which you absolutely can do with 7,000, 8,000. You go back and listen to me a few years ago, I was going, AEW is getting into a danger zone here. It's going to be hard to create new stars if you're not in major arenas with big crowds. And Collision, there are all kinds of reasons they shouldn't have launched Collision. And Tony Khan goes, but look at the rights fees I'm getting every week. How can you say it's a bad idea? Because I think there's a bunch of other things that I can't prove would be better off without it, but I believe they'd be better off without it. And one of them is not burning out markets with a B TV show. And that's what Collision is. So sometimes they do double tapings. That hurts attendance because you go from a live Dynamite to this wind down hour and a half, 2 hours of a Collision taping, and you leave people kind of on a down note, or they have to walk out in the middle of the show. Who wants to walk out in the middle of a show because they're tired and they're seeing B matches? Or Collision is on a Thursday or a Saturday, and you go and you're seeing a B show. And now next time Dynamite comes to town, you're like, I don't know, last time it wasn't that good. The biggest downside of Collision for me wasn't the stretching the booking thin. Big problem. It wasn't the biggest problem. Stretching the wrestlers thin, overworking them, or having thinner rosters because you're splitting the big matches on two shows. The biggest problem for me was AEW wasn't ready to run major, significant size buildings twice a week. And once you got a couple years into it, they were going to burn out. And so my answer to your question, Rude Dog, is Collision. They burned out all their markets because they've been running. The novelty's gone. They didn't load up Dynamite every time they came to town. Dynamite should have been a huge show with all the big stars every week. It should have been a party, a celebration. Remember Nitro when they did the Nitro parties and they really played into the fan enthusiasm? They do spring break specials. They did all these things that made it feel like a happening. They made a big deal out of ticket launches. And AEW just went to these towns, took the fans for granted, gave them 1/3 to 2/3 of the top stars, never announced the matches ahead of time. You didn't know who you're getting. People were disappointed they didn't see Kenny or they didn't see Hangman or the Bucks or whoever. And after a couple years, they're like, I'll watch it at home. Yeah, that's what happened. That's my multi-minute spiel on that. Griffin, what do you want to add?
Yeah, I do think that there's something to selling out a smaller building, and I agree. You probably talked about it many times, or I heard Heyman talk about it. I know next time they come back to Denver, there will be people who will buy their tickets online because they sold out. They walked up and expected to buy a ticket and were turned away and drove an hour to get there and couldn't buy a ticket. So, which in 2025, there's a thing in your pocket. Look it up. But you walk up to there and you hope you're going to get a cheaper ticket because there's empty seats, and there wasn't. So they're good to play some of these smaller venues so they don't have those expectations of papered seats or cheaper tickets. Yep. But you've got to do bigger than 1,400. Like 2,500 seat arenas, especially in Houston, you've got to be able to find a mid-size arena in Houston. I think Rude Dog's got a great point there. It's not Wichita, Kansas. It's a major market.
Yeah. Go ahead, Ray.
Well, yeah, I mean, I've been to indie shows with more than 1,500 people there. Like, I mean, so it's just like this is supposedly the second like biggest brand in pro wrestling, and I don't that number to me just like it seemed just horrible.
I do agree with Wade about like event shows. Bash at the Beach was on a beach. The first Nitro was in a mall. Like,
not a mall, the mall.
The mall.
The Mall of America, yeah.
A Mall will have, in January, A Mall is going to have an indie show outside of WrestleMania or outside of Nerdnostalgia, but that's a whole other thing. Yeah, I mean, have these event shows where, you know, I know that for my grand open party, if I throw a wrestling ring up in our mall, people are going to congregate around it. People are going to want to know what's going on, and they're going to pay attention. Do that with a wrestling ring at a nightclub where they can, put it on the beach or put it in a nightclub where things are going on. Swerve has connections. Throw some hip hop DJs in there and bring in people who would come to that. Throw a ring in there and let Swerve headline the show and get a different audience paying attention, because that's what AEW doesn't have. They don't have, they've lost the cool audience. Swerve's about the coolest thing that they have. Yeah. Like for a hip hop fan, there's reasons to watch wrestling, but there's nothing in AEW. For the kids, like Orange Cassidy is a great comedy character, but then they try to use him for other things. Like I didn't get the appeal of Too Cool until I went to a house show and saw all these kids dancing with Rikishi and Scotty 2 Hotty. And I realized wrestling is the buffet and you've got to have the rest of it. And AEW is trying to be a big commercialized ROH, and ROH never got a fan base for a reason.
Tony Khan books for Tony Khan clones.
He's
He's
a matchmaker, not a booker.
That's also true. But the point I'm making is Tony Khan doesn't book for kids and adults and women and age group. He books what he likes. And you know what? He was onto something 7 years ago, because Vince McMahon was not booking what Tony Khan and a lot of similar fans liked. But those fans got their fill, and then they got disgruntled, and then they got burned out. And whether it was a CM Punk fiasco or being spread too thin with Rampage and then Collision, injuries and departures, losing Cody, all kinds of things kind of took some of the shine off things. Bringing Okada in, and then he's sort of like semi-retired Okada doing comedy bits and not being a world-class wrestler. There's just been one thing after another. The MJF becoming just sort of a fiasco of a character for a while. There were a lot of missteps, and then just some unfulfilled hopes, like Adam Cole, for instance, not panning out. For all kinds of reasons. But circling back, Tony Khan, AEW is based on Tony Khan booking for what Tony Khan likes, and I say that just objectively without judgment. That's what he does.
Yeah,
Vince McMahon booked for himself a lot. If you look at my 20 years ago SmackDown reports on PWTorch right now, there was weird stuff going on those shows, like weird, like fetish, quirky. Bathroom humor, pulling stuff out of Jim Ross's like barbecue sauce. I mean, Vince McMahon was weird in his 50s. So he's doing a lot for himself. But he also had cogent moments of clarity, which is, what can we do to attract kids with Too Cool? What can we do to attract women? That was a very deliberate thing. And Linda McMahon said that famous phrase, we want our fans cradle to grave. Yeah. We want to have something that appeals to everybody. So that's not, Tony Khan's never done anything where you're like, I mean, you say, oh, Luchasaurus. Yeah, but it's just sort of a carryover from something that he inherited. And it's sort of a gimmick, a kid's gimmick for adults. It's not a kid's gimmick marketed to kids. They're not aiming at families. That's not his strategy. And it worked for a while, and now it's not. And I don't know that they can compete, because WWE has that market cornered. They need to be better at appealing to people who like wrestling the way Tony Khan likes wrestling. They just need to be better in that category, because WWE has moved so far ahead of them in other ways that that window has closed.
What Tony loved about wrestling died. ECW died. WCW died, and while New Japan didn't die, it's struggling. You can't just have banger after banger after banger without a reason to carry, a reason to care about who wins, who loses, the characters. You've got to have that character development. Sometimes it's risky. Like right now, taking on the other channel, taking Jey Uso, who's a top merch, and having him tween into heeldom. Like, he's a top merch seller, and then we're kind of showing this dark side off a little bit to develop the character, because 5 years from now, you want people to care about Jey Uso, babyface or heel. And there's not that thought always put into it. You got to build character, and you've got to have story, and there's got to be a reason why this match matters more than just the moves.
Yep. I agree. Rude Dog, back to you.
All right. So how do you feel about the build-up for Full Gear so far? Because I currently live in New Jersey, and I have I have little to no interest in going, which is like crazy, because I was at the very first AEW show in Las Vegas, Double or Nothing. I've been to AEW shows all over America, and this is like, a 20-minute drive, and I'm like, I don't even know if I want to go. And I think it sucks, and I don't really know why. Like, I mean, none of the matches so far announced interest me, and definitely the national championship does not interest me whatsoever. I mean, the only thing would be like Okada and Takeshita match that I don't think has been announced yet, but it's just I don't know. I don't know how to feel. How do you feel the Full Gear is going on right now?
So I'll just say their ticket sales are fine for this. They've got over 7,300 tickets distributed according to WrestleTix as of this morning. Yes, the building can hold 16,000, so there's plenty more that they can sell. They're set up right now for about 8,800 in the building. It's not a bad crowd. It's not a great crowd. It's a signature pay-per-view title for AEW, and they've loaded it up with the available star power that they have. Kyle Fletcher, Mark Briscoe, they set up a special stipulation for that match, and they're getting a lot more out of Mark Briscoe than I thought people anticipated they would when he first kind of got called up from ROH after his brother's death. The Casino Gauntlet match, we're making fun of the national title, but it's just sort of a format. I thought credit where it's due. They took a Casino Gauntlet match and they built it around two key factions who are going to be participating in it. There'll be others, but there's a storyline there. It's not just a bunch of random people coming out. It's about the Ricochet group and the Hurt Syndicate. So we got that. The Trails match is Young Bucks against with Josh Alexander because of the Callis family tie-in. Probably there to do a job. We'll see against Kenny Omega and Jurassic Express. That feels like there's good storyline support for that. FTR and Brodito, they did a storyline for that. We'll talk about that. The arm punching through the wall. I know Griffin's excited about that. And then the two major singles titles. I mean, Chris Statler defending against Mercedes and Hangman Page against Samoa Joe are solid matches. I mean, Joe in a rematch, freshly turned heel. They're getting something extra out of that. I haven't been a huge fan of what Samoa Joe has done since turning heel, but it's not bad. It's just I'm not a huge fan of it, but I think they're putting some effort into it. So, I mean, I don't know. To me, the lineup looks like AEW putting the best foot forward they can right now with what they have to work with when they don't have, Will Ospreay and Swerve Strickland in particular. And MJF. I mean, throw him in there too. So 3 big names. I'm probably forgetting someone else who's off the card, but it's a good thing Kenny's in it and the Bucks are healthy. So I don't know. I mean, I think it's all right, but Rude Dog, this show should be, if AEW would have sold out, that venue at one time, and it's a huge market that they're going to, and they're, a few weeks out, and they're not anywhere close to a sellout. They're not, they're about halfway there. So now, Griffin, what do you think?
Yeah, I think that there's just not the excitement for the product. There's people like me that'll I'll buy a ticket every time wrestling's in town. If I can afford to go and have the time to go, which WWE is making it very hard on that afford to go part. So, when AEW is in town, if I have the time to get out there, I'm going to go. But yeah, there's nothing that's exciting me to, if I was a casual fan, to just want to go.
When by the way, Chooch says last year's Folk Gear got 10,000 in the same building. Yeah, WrestleTix noted 10,639 last year. They might get there. I mean, they're only 2,000 they're 3,500.
I hope so.
Short of that.
Yeah.
And,
they
just introduced the national title, so hang on. Long lines tomorrow at Ticketmaster.
I love AEW. I love wrestling. I love Tony Khan for providing these jobs for wrestlers. We want the best for them. We want to see ways that they grow, and a new title belt as a main focal point of your show is not the way to do it.
Couple chat comments, and I'll throw back to you, Rude Dog. Adam Kidd says, I think the build to Blood and Guts has hurt the build for Folk Gear. Yeah, I mean, we see that with WWE sometimes. They're promoting 2, 3, 4 events at the same time, and your head's kind of spinning and all of that. And I think some people think, this War Game spinoff sequel, Blood and Guts, with all these big names in it, is a bigger deal than Full Gear and anything on that show. I mean, I tried to frame it positively when I ran down the lineup, but it is some rematches. And even the Casino Gauntlet match, it's a rematch. It's just in a different format. Fletcher Briscoe, Hangman and Joe. So, I mean, it's not this fresh, red-hot lineup. And by the way, part of what's hurting AW is the 12 pay-per-views instead of quarterly. I mean, it was a big deal when there was a scarcity of them. And now, and I mean, I hate to just do one branch of a bad thing after another about it, because I thought what didn't come into the show super down on AEW. I think we're just sort of hitting on what the reality is about where they are consistently. The reality of where they are now, it's not about this week being especially bad or anything, or even Full Gear being bad. They just are in a different place than they were a few years ago. But having events that go 5 hours, 6 hours counting pre-show, 8 hours if there's a science main event or whatever they're trying to compete. I mean, they're burning out the audience too. People have lives, and there's so much wrestling out there. Just give us the best 3.5 hours you can. You're not going to lose anybody. But you're turning people off when they have to stay up that late and sit around that long to see the matches that really matter. So many negatives. And Real Legend says, Rude Dog not interested in going should be a wake-up call, because Rude Dog is the type of fan that Tony Khan caters to. Yeah. All right, Rude Dog.
I agree. Thank you. But I don't know. Let's try to say something positive. I think Ricochet is pretty great right now and is at his best. His whole WWE stint seemed like a wash. I found him a great heel in New Japan, and this now seems like he's firing on all cylinders. But do you think this is the best version of Ricochet you've seen? Yeah.
Griffin, how about you?
I love this version of Ricochet. Love the bad guys, love the heels since I was a kid. I just think it gives you a more fully fleshed out character. He gets to go to that snarky, sarcastic side of himself, and it's really fun to watch. And I'm interested to see where he goes. They've been paired with Hurt Syndicate for so long, but I'm curious to see where they go next.
Yeah. Ricochet's fun. I mean, he's the haha and the glasses and sort of a deadpan snarkiness. And yeah, I mean, they're getting more out of him than I thought they would. And, I use the phrase often, joy of performance. I think Ricochet's having more fun than he's ever had as a character. And that's the thing. I mean, when you look at, we're talking a lot of macro decisions and kind of like brand vibes for AEW, but the specifics, the detail work on the specifics of this lineup are good. Like when people go, oh, Tony Khan shouldn't be booking and all this. No, Tony Khan should have somebody who goes, here's a few things I want to rein you in on. And Tony go, okay, thank you. Yeah, sometimes you get carried away. It'd be great to have that dynamic. But he added a stipulation to Fletcher and Briscoe, and I thought they pulled it off pretty well. Briscoe's like, yeah, I'll do it if that's what it takes to get a title shot. And now people like
parts of the show, I thought.
Yes, but now you have to wonder, Griffin and Rudock, are people going to want Briscoe to lose because they want to see Briscoe in the Don Callis family messing up all of the Don Callis family's meetings and dinners? I mean, honestly, there's some fun potential in Briscoe. Be careful what you wish for, Don Callis, I guess is my point. So
I'm going to miss that great conglomeration video if he has to leave.
Yeah. And they did a good job with Casino Gauntlet going, hey, what if Shelton and Bobby face each other? They planted some seeds there. Omega and Jurassic Park and Young Bucks and Josh. You have the question of the Bucks are sort of being catered to, courted is the word I'm looking for, by Don Callis with videos and all that. The entrance video and using his poll. So now you have this whole thing. Are the Bucks going to end up being in the Don Callis family? And when it doesn't happen, then are they going to reunite with Kenny Omega? So there's a story there. We had the Brodito FTR build tonight where Dax was being a jerk to Brodito's grandma, and then Gravity, Bandito's younger brother, jumps the railing. Meanwhile, Brody King and I don't even know who the other guy is now because I say Brodito so much. Bandito and Brody King. I don't want to interchange the name of the team and the wrestlers. All I'm saying, they break through the wall and charge the ring. So there's a story there. They put time into it, and it's not like the go home show even because next week's so busy. Hangman and Joe. I mean, we should talk about what they did there. They followed up on last week's angle, tried to tie a little loose end, which is Tony was having fun with Hangman, but he didn't know what he was going to do. So he wasn't a conspirator in the attack. He just thought, oh, you want to impersonate him? That sounds fun. I thought that was good. That addressed an issue that I wrote about in one of my Wade Keller news bulletins last week when I tore apart last week's angle in the cover story of that PDF bulletin as just being, quote, entertaining for the sake of entertainment, but it didn't make sense. I'll let people listen or read it to get my full take on that because I put a lot of thought into that one. And Statlander Mercedes, I mean, what can you do? I mean, Statlander is Statlander, but I mean, but my point is that there's some micro booking here where you can see they're sitting down, and I think this is his team who surrounds him, and they're going, let's add a little something extra to each of these matches. And I think they've given a little undercurrent backstory or hook to each of these. And so there's some good things they're doing. It's the big things that are the problem. Mm-hmm. Too many shows. And like some people in the chat are saying, don't book to kids. Just do a better job booking to the Tony Khans of the world, the people who aren't, sons of billionaires who can open a wrestling company, but have the same taste as Tony Khan and want to go be entertained when AEW comes to town. And that's the thing. I'm not advocating. I'm saying it's not an option anymore, but I'm also not lamenting that it's not an option. I think AEW, as Tony says, a challenger brand, should just be the best at something. That's what he needs to be, the best at something. But there's too many weaknesses because there's too many things they're doing that are trope derivative. Oh, let's turn the lights out and turn them on. Oh, let's have a whatever. We've talked about it for years. All the things that they're not new ideas. They're pulling from Tony Khan's memories as a fan. And at some point, you just want to do something well that feels forward-leaning and not looking back. So anyway, yeah. So big picture, there's a lot of things that are going to be hard to fix. But the small stuff, I mean, they get some credit for some detail work, Rude Dog. So I think lineup-wise, I'm not down. I'm not down on the show. I don't think it's like travel across the country to see it. It's historically significant. But if you're in the area, I think there's a reason they've sold 7,000 plus tickets, not just 2,000. I mean, I think they might match last year's attendance or come close because they've done some nice detail work on almost all the matches in the lineup so far.
All right. Well, maybe you're talking me into it. I was there last year, but we'll see.
Yeah.
We've still got a couple weeks to go. So you mentioned Young Bucks, Don Callis, even if they don't join, the Bucks join the Callis family, where do you see this going? I mean, even if they were against odds, it would be fun. But at this point, maybe just Don Callis should just have every heel in the company in his family. What do you think?
Griffin, what do you think about? I mean, a big faction is a distinctive trait. Yeah. I said I want Don Callis on TV every week. If you're going to get in the Don Callis business, I don't want him just phoning it in on commentary every now and then. I want to feel like creative effort has been put into him every week because he's potentially too talented of a centerpiece villainous heel to just be someone who sort of shows up every now and then. He shouldn't just be like getting the TV time that Smart Mark Sterling got. Like he is, and by the way, the more reps he gets, I think the better he gets. Like, I think he's getting better in the last couple months than he's ever been in AEW because the reps are there, and I think he's putting more thought into it. There's more creative effort, and I don't mind the huge faction because it's clear there are some big names, some small names. I think there's more they can do with that, but I don't find it unwieldy because they did what I suggested, which is have them appear on TV together more often. That wasn't being done enough. Like, very specific things that I've been really hitting on in the last couple of years with Callis, but especially earlier this year, they're not doing. They're showing them together in creative environments every week, and when they're on a segment, it looks like they put thought into it, some more than others. That's not a dig. It's just some weeks are like a big segment with everyone gathered. It's a pre-recorded, edited thing, and other times it's just today where they just are backstage together. They're doing a lot right with the Don Callis family right now, and they're kind of they're self-aware and wearing it as a badge of honor that there's this huge faction with all these members, and I don't know how it's going to play out. I don't know that it's ultimately going to be positive, but I don't look at that as inherently dooming them like too many title belts dooms title belts. Would it be better to pare it down or maybe, cut a couple people? Yeah, I mean, probably, but they have some injuries, so it's sort of partial anyway. Anyway, Griffin, that's my form of throwing to you right away, and I didn't succeed at that. I talked for 2 minutes. Go ahead.
It does feel a little NWO red and white when there's so many members, because I think it's unfair to the Hechiceros and Beast Mortos who need a mouthpiece and they're not focused on enough in the faction. I think those are two incredibly talented luchadors that should be doing more than kind of just being the underdog guys or the undercard guys in the Callis family. I do think Callis is great. I think he gets heat as well as anybody in wrestling. So as far as the Young Bucks joining, I do kind of like the idea of maybe they just don't feel like they want to, and Callis is being super nice, super sweet, getting them, buttered up to get in right now. And when they don't join and they're like, it's nothing personal, we just don't want to be part of your group, to turn them back babyface for a good last babyface run for a little while. It might be time to do it because they've done great work as heels, and I think they'd be ready to be accepted as babyfaces again. I also like the money matches. I like it. It's been when money matches have been done before, it's hey, we're going to do this as a reason to throw all these people into a match. They've done it enough over the last year that it's become a thing that now it's like, okay, this is a money match. This isn't about a title. This isn't about a grudge. And I like that the Young Bucks have been able to use that to tell stories instead of creating another tag team title to chase. So I kind of it's been used enough that it's not just a trope, it's a storyline.
It kind of feels almost like a championship now, though. Like, it's just another belt because they, instead of having the pride of winning or moving up in contendership or something or settling a feud, it's like a title is at stake, but it's just a cash prize. So that's to me a negative because you're now sort of just tell a story of people fighting. Like when you have so many titles and now the cash prizes, and I'll bring up some positive about it too. But when you do that, it's sort of saying we don't want to make the match, like winning a match, matter. We've waved the white flag on the fact that people fighting without a title or cash at stake, it's not important enough to care. And I don't think you want that message. I think it should matter to win. Like that has to inherently be portrayed as important. You can't just create a bunch of belts that all water each other down as a substitute for just a win. Winning is important. Okay, so on the positive side, it's not just cash prizes for the sake of cash prizes. It is the Bucks are broke, and so they have this extra incentive to want to win money, and then how are they going to blow it again? I don't think it's tremendously executed. I think they could have done something like, why do the Bucks get to wrestle for these big cash prizes, and how much money are these wrestlers wrestling for when there isn't an announced cash prize? Why? What is the presupposition for why the Bucks? Because Nick has a gambling problem, get to wrestle for $1 million or $500,000, and all these other poor wrestlers just start working for their whatever their normal paycheck is. So there's a storyline reason for doing it. Bucks are broke. But it hasn't been thought through enough for me to give it a thumbs up in execution, even though there's at least something there as a foundation to spark it, because it seems unfair. I mean, like, I blew all my money. Well, now you get to have a chance to earn 10 times more than anybody else when you wrestle and win. I just like my stuff to make sense. You know, I wrote about it today in the Wade Keller VIP News Bulletin. Why did Logan Paul go from getting Tsunami to deciding to side with Paul Heyman 2.5 hours later? I need an explanation for that. You know, and you can't just do it because it's kind of fun. Oh, it's a misdirection. People didn't see that coming. We made you think Logan was a good guy, and then he wasn't. We're right, but are Logan Paul's actions logical? Is there something where it will make sense when we look back on it? That's what I feel about the money match. It's like, why is Tony Khan suddenly putting up all this money to reward the Bucks for bad behavior and irresponsible spending? So it's a cute idea. But I think everything on wrestling, everything, especially with main eventers, but really everything should go through a filter of, does this make sense? It's the simplest question that every booker should ask when they come up with a cool, oh, this would be fun if we did this, but does it make sense? What are the consequences of doing it? Like, I would love to just eat junk food all day, but I don't, because there's all these after effects that aren't fun. It's bad for my long-term health. I'll get a sugar spike and then drop, whatever. So we don't do it. And that's like, oh, I'll suffocate him. Well, right. But then Wednesday, you got to show up to work, and we have to act like you still deserve to work here when you tried to kill somebody. Maybe we shouldn't do it then. Oh, I'll put a bunch of money on the line. Well, why do they get cash prizes but nobody else does? That doesn't make any sense. You're rewarding bad. So I just want fun ideas to not make it to TV unless they can be framed in a way that makes sense. And so I still have a problem with it. Yeah. I don't know. Rude talk.
I always thought money matches were like goofy, like even in the 80s, like when like Big John Studd won like the Battle Royal and had money just in a WWE duffel bag handed out to people. Yeah. It's just like even as a kid, it was hard for me to believe. So it's like now it's just like seems extra stupid. So I think they should just go like full in, like being as like ridiculous as possible. Like I think one of the Young Bucks, once they win their money match, it should be a bag full of Young Bucks dollars and they hand it out to the crowd. That would be cool with me. But I don't know. Anyways, I think that's all I got tonight, fellas.
Cool.
Great talking to you, and have a great rest of your night.
Thanks, Rude Dog. Appreciate it. All right. Let's go to an email that ties into Blood and Guts here. This comes from JB. Multi-topics here. We'll see which ones we haven't covered yet. With the announcement that another championship will be awarded at Full Gear and a women's tag titles are being added around the same time on top of the 20 other championships in the AEW ecosystem, what's next? I've been lenient on complaints about too many titles in AEW, but Tony Khan has to be trolling people at this point, right? He can't possibly think that what's missing is another title, as very much evidenced by the mild reaction of the crowd to the announcement. I'm being generous. Number two, I'm never a fan of when WWE uses the opening segment to establish a main event, and I wasn't a fan of AEW doing it tonight. What would the main event have been if the Ops hadn't interrupted Shivani? So in defense of AEW, they announced the match. It just wasn't a title match. So I actually thought that was a good workaround, right, Griffin? Because they announced that was in the lineup ahead of time, the match. It just wasn't for the title.
Yeah, because that's when Hook said, aren't you the trios champions? Are you going to be fighting champions? Put them on the line.
If the Callis family didn't already have 30 members, I'd actually love the idea of a potential interplay of Mark Briscoe being forced to join the family and how he would play to the core of the stable like Okada and Fletcher. By the way, I think Callis should have a limit, and every time he adds someone new, he cuts someone the next week in a big ceremony on TV.
Salary cap.
What's that?
Like a salary cap.
Yeah. Like you could turn it into a thing where, well, Josh Alexander, loved you for a while, but you've been losing lately. You've been letting us down. You lost the Blood and Guts match. You're cut because Mark Briscoe's now in the group. And so you could just have because some bosses like to mess with people, make them paranoid and like I mean, I'm just sort of
It'd
fantasy
be a
booking
great
this.
way to turn one of them babyface and get something out of
Exactly.
him other than just leaving him in the stable. Because
Yeah.
Alexander is phenomenal.
And Lance Archer should be a babyface someday.
Yeah.
I mean, like, he can be cut. I mean, like, whatever. So I don't know. I mean, it's just like a random idea I had, but like, I could totally see Don Callis liking the power, the mind effing of his guys. They're all paranoid. Who's going to be cut? And there's intrafaction backstabbing and people, in tag matches trying to get the pin because they want to like be the guy who got the win. And then when someone loses, like the members are, I don't know. I think there's a way to actually kind of tell a fun story there to turn the number of people into a positive, but also put like you said, a cap on it. Like it's not just going to end up with 25 people.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, the Bucks' indecisiveness about aligning with Don Callis, like they previously have, is interesting to me. Is this a sign that they're set to reunite once again with their former elite mates, or could there be a different story being told on the horizon? I think they'll turn babyface. I think there's signs of that and align with Kenny again.
Yeah, which should happen again. And when they turned heel, they needed to turn heel, and that was the best thing they did, and they did great.
JB says, it seems like the women's tag tourney final is going to be Tony and Mina versus the Sisters of Sin. I actually like the idea of pushing the Sisters of Sin. I think that the sum is greater than the parts there. I don't like Sisters of Sin because when I talk fast, it's hard to say. It's a tongue twister. Tony and Mina. What's that?
Julia Hart. She just looks like a girl mad at her dad and is going to dress goth. Like the way she's still got the cheerleader blonde hair, like she never changed that. Just she looks too Hot Topic for me to take seriously. Maybe that's just the old man in me.
Yeah, fair enough.
We would call her very cute, very evil when she first turned heel in honor of Danhausen.
Yep. JB says Tony and Mina should be the inaugural champions, and the Sisters of Sin should be the first team to take it off of them. All right. MVP called the soon-to-be national title the international title. Excalibur almost did the same thing before correcting himself later in the segment. That's a very bad look for a title that is unwanted and almost certainly unneeded by the fan base. And side note, who's more likely to be the first national champ, Ricochet or Bobby Lashley? Griffin, is it one of those two based on the build, or are they going to surprise us with some third person who spoils
Lashley. I think the whole purpose of the belt is to make Lashley matter more, and they don't do that by just making him a challenger for the championship and realizing that you can still be a main event person and lose. Drew McIntyre's kept himself very relevant in losing, and while I do want to see him have a moment again, when he gets his moment, it will be even more because he knows how to keep himself relevant even in defeat. And if Bobby Lashley can too.
I'm just thinking maybe we should just introduce a new title every month. Like just first Wednesday of every month. It's Wednesday.
I wonder if that's in your contract. Hey, if you come here, we'll create a title for you.
Yeah. But just every Wednesday got a new belt. Might be a women's belt. Might be a tag belt. Might be a gimmick belt. New belt. What belt will be introduced in December? What belt in January? And unlike my Don Callis family idea, they never retire a belt. They just keep adding more and more.
Can I tell Zach Barber I just wish I had hair? I saw his comment. So.
Oh, I didn't see what he said. Oh, Zach says, Griffin, you don't have hair, so you don't know the trouble of dyeing it.
I wish I had it. I mean, it'd be nice. I did try to dye the gray one time when I was going for a job with Vans and didn't want to look old. But
Yep. All right. Let's see. FTR and oh, wait. Nope. First, the Scorpion Deathlock reversal into a Scorpion Deathlock from Garcia to Darby to get the Darby win was a thing of pure beauty. That simple move alone really popped the crowd. It just goes to show that not every exciting sequence has to be what traditionally is considered a high spot or something from a death match. Yeah, I mean, that backs up my point. Like, just there's all kinds of moves you can get over by selling them and strategically placing them in a match and not crowding them out with a ton of other high spots. And they do not have to be dangerous to be effective. They don't even have to be athletically dazzling to be effective. There's history here, and they did a good job with it. FTR and Stokely roasting crowds and families is becoming a guilty pleasure of mine when it happens on Dynamite. Tony Storm asking Excalibur if he'd commentate on one of her orgies and asking Danielson.
Oh, my God. Okay.
Yep.
I laughed out loud. So Wednesday nights, we play Dynamite in the store.
Yeah.
And man, this cute young couple were just sitting there at my counter looking through my lapel pins, and here's Tony Storm asking if they'd commentate on the orgy, and I just laughed and apologized.
If they go, what is going on here? You go, you got 5 minutes? Because it's actually, there's a good explanation and it's really good. That's funny. That's great. I love that. And so yeah, he says Tony Storm asking about the orgies, and then asking Danielson if he wears hemp cologne, and then saying that blood and guts is what her sheets look like after a long weekend had to be the best lines of the night. Well, it is a given that Tony Storm is going to have the best lines of the night. The question is, are those the best 3 lines of the night? Are they the best 3 Tony Storm lines of the night? I mean, all 3 in one match on one night. Maybe someone's keeping track of this, but it has to be a contender for the best 3 memorable lines.
She had some really good ones off the balcony at one of those shows too, where she just had line after line after line and put it all into a whole promo, and it made sense. That was really good too. But yeah, I will always remember that line because of where I was, and it made me laugh out loud with customers in store. It took it well.
Is there anybody that you would take over keeping Tony Storm on the roster right now? And I'm not saying she alone is the most valuable person, but is she the most irreplaceable in the sense that, we lose Moxley. Yeah, but we still have whatever. Or we lose Hangman, but we still have whomever. Like, everyone else feels sort of like you could kind of fill in with somebody. Maybe they'd be a loss. But Tony Storm is so unique and
I have unironically said she's the best thing in wrestling. Like, I do think that I think Paul Heyman is just the smartest guy in wrestling, and probably other than Vince McMahon, the guy that has affected wrestling most in the positive way. But my God, Tony Storm, I got to think that there are fans of AEW because of Tony Storm. And there's not all that many wrestlers outside of ones that came to and brought their identity to AEW, like a Kenny Omega. Like, how many people are like, I'm a fan of AEW because of this character, this person? And Tony Storm is phenomenal. She knows her character. She gets who she is. I think, her, you don't want to burn her out. She lost the world championship. And I think, to introduce the tag titles, I think she's the perfect one. Her and Mina are great together, and a great, perfect first tag team. Hold them a long time and drop them to the next up-and-comer.
It plays into what I was saying about Mox and Darby and being tag champs. Like, I want a singles champion main eventer on the men's side to team with someone else who's a big single star, and then care about the tag team titles enough to win them and defend them against tag teams. It's just fresh matchups, and then the tag teams feel like a bigger deal because they're not just sort of upper mid-card or even prelim titles. There's a major star like Darby, a major star like Moxley, and they want them and they got them. And now we're seeing them against more traditional tag team specialists. And I think that's Brody King and Bandito are in a third category, which is they're not like bookend tag teams. They're not identical. They're two just, kind of singles wrestlers who just kind of struck gold as in terms of the juxtaposition of the two, or Jack Perry and Luchasaurus. Like, those are fun too. That's not what I'm talking about, though. I'm talking about 2 top tier world title level main event single stars. Tony Storm is that, and now she's going to be in the tag division. That gives credibility to the tag titles right out of the gate. Yeah. The tag titles were won by Collision regulars, and not that would define down the tag titles right away.
Well, and while it might be predictable, I think when they crown the women's tag champions, like Bayley and Mercedes, Sasha Banks at the time, were the right champions to start the division, and I think it's the same thing. They're 2 top tier main event in that world, and Mina, not top tier but widely respected champion, singles champion, multiple promotions, great fit.
A couple comments on Tony Storm here that are good. First, competing or a big line, Pick and CJ says the promo with Alex Windsor: you can beat us down, but you can't beat us off.
Yeah.
Rude Dog says, I know actors who just watch Tony Storm. They have no other interest in pro wrestling. Just want to see Tony Storm. And then Real Legend says, Tony Storm is AEW's biggest star. She's the only AEW shirt I have.
She's the only women's wrestler I've gone out of my way to buy merchandise for.
Yep. Yeah.
That wasn't that wasn't like a poster of Sunny when I was a teenager.
Right. Yes. Adam Kidd says Omega and Hangman did, and it was great in reference to two top-tier singles wrestlers. So yeah, I'm glad you brought up the example because I should be bringing up examples historically where this has worked. It's not like it hasn't been done. I just think it should be done more often, like almost all the time. It should be a mix of single stars going. We're not in the singles title realm. We want to win the tag titles. It makes the tag belts feel more important, and it's good for the Bucks and FTR and Jurassic Express, like teams like that, to be against top. And then you have the whole storyline, and you can just hear the commentators. Well, you got these tag team specialists, but you have these two single stars of great success. But have they been together enough? Tag team wrestling is different than singles wrestling. It gives you something else to talk about strategically. That's a lot of fun. All right. JB says, I liked the babyface women standing tall in the melee after Bane and after the Bane Shirakawa match. It was a good visual on the Go Home Dynamite for Blood and Guts. Yep, I agree. I mentioned that earlier. I feel like AEW should be doing more with that. What's that?
Oh, I was just saying, protect Megan Bane. Protect her.
Yeah.
Oh man.
What is there a cat or a break-in or what's going on?
No, I had a banner fall.
Okay. That happens. Sorry. I feel like AEW should be doing more with Eddie Kingston unless they intend on pushing Hook and Kingston at a very high level. The AEW face roster has been severely depleted by injury in recent months, and Kingston has a charisma and mic skill to fill in for a top spot in the interim. My assumption is Tony Khan doesn't feel comfortable pushing Eddie Kingston for some reason in a big way right now, because otherwise why wouldn't he be? Other than thinking it's a little duplicitous with Mark Briscoe, and he just thinks Mark's more reliable. But, I don't know.
Very different. Just because they're like tattooed, not typical guys. They're completely different fan bases. Eddie Kingston, I'll put over every time. You want to, if I want to show somebody a promo and say you want to believe in a match that you're going to see after one promo, it's Eddie Kingston.
Yeah, I hope it happens, and I hope Tony Khan doesn't have a reason to not invest in him right now, because they think he might get injured again or who knows what. I like Hook and Kingston. I don't know. That's another kind of, odd couple tag team that could work, and they kind of fill in a little bit of each other's weaknesses. By the way, Hook tapping out. He was an undefeated guy at one point, was kind of silly.
The backbreaker. Come on. The backbreaker is when you put them over your knee and break their back. That's a human torture rack.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't know. That call just bothered me.
I don't blame you. Sometimes, Excalibur calls all the flying moves and a lot of, the New Japan moves, but then there'll be a submission move, and he goes, "That's submission move," and it's like, "Hey, we're counting on you. What if we need you to that needs to be your superpower, your super skill." It's always getting that right, because he has to make up for talking like this at the end of segments for no reason, and make up for other deficiencies by at least calling every move accurately all the time. Let's see. Finally, is 2 Blood and Guts matches and a Hangman Hobbs Falls Count Anywhere match next week overkill for one Dynamite? I feel like I might experience sensory overload. As always, love the show and go VIP. It's sensory overload's a good word for what next week might be.
Yeah, we shouldn't. I don't think they should do 2 Blood and Guts and a 2-hour Dynamite. Is it going to be 2 hours? Is it going to be longer? I don't know. But
yeah,
I always feel that even on the pay-per-views when they have to have the men's Royal Rumble and women's Royal Rumble and War Games matches. And then also in the women's match, 6-on-6. Come on. 5-on-5 is plenty. I like some of the old 4-on-4 ones. 6-on-6 is a lot of, bringing people in, bringing the next one in, and getting to the 12 people.
Yeah. So, speaking of Hangman, they want to address this briefly, but Samoa Joe, Hangman, they followed up on what happened last week. They showed a clip of it. They owned it. They didn't run from it. And they, as it noted earlier, Excalibur said that Tony Schiavone and Joe called him out, on it and confronted him. He should. It seemed like Tony was a co-conspirator in whatever Hangman was trying to accomplish, which I don't think he accomplished much. That being a babyface who attacks a heel from behind in disguise doesn't. It feels like you did it more for the viral moment or this was fun, we did it before, let's do it again, without thinking, does Hangman have anything to actually gain from this elaborate ruse that also involves a babyface attacking somebody from behind? And he already has a rematch with him. So I didn't like it for a lot of reasons that I wrote about and talked about last week. But I like that they addressed the Shivani thing and did say, yeah, Tony didn't know what he just thought it was a fun thing to do. He didn't know it was going to turn into the Hangman attacking Joe the way that he did. And I think that's good to take Tony out of the awkward position of seeming like he was taking sides. Not that announcers don't take sides. Announcers take sides too often in AEW and WWE. There's times to decry actions of a heel, but you shouldn't be an overt cheerleader for wrestlers unless it's sort of a gag that sort of works with like a mid-carder and it's just sort of a thing. Even then it can be a little like, Wade Barrett going bonkers for some female talent. It's like, I just don't need to know that about Wade Barrett, who like, it's just like, he's so good in every other way. And Joe Tessitore and Penta, Joe volunteered an image we don't need in our head. And then you have, and then you got, and we got, Michael Cole, who it's like the Jey Uso stuff and Pat McAfee. I mean, I just want my announcers to not think they're stars of the show. They're there to serve, like the centers in the NBA are there to get rebounds and block shots. They're not there to shoot 3-point shots and distribute. Like, just kind of know as Rock would say, know your role. If you're a point guard, you don't have a good 3-point shot, distribute the ball and then run back on defense. Just know what you do. And announcers, I don't like, Renee's fantastic at what she does. And I don't like when now she's getting at all these little comedy bits. It's like, I know it's kind of boring to do the same thing every week, but I just think the announcer should just be there to serve the wrestler and not become the center of attention and look like they're just trying to entertain themselves. And I think too much of that goes on sometimes. Yeah. So yeah, Griffin, your thoughts?
Bryan Danielson was a great addition to the booth because he knows how to put over the right things in the match and not be the center point and the star of it. Wade Barrett's usually very good about that too, and knows how to put over the wrestler. Larry Zbyszko, as much as he'd put himself over, we were talking earlier about money matches. One of the things that I always loved as I was, a kid listening to Larry Zbyszko, maybe 14, 16, and he would always talk about, well, the winner gets more money. He would always talk about, or Dusty Rhodes would talk about the pay window.
Yep.
Yeah. I never completely understood it because I'm like, there's no points, but Zbyszko would talk about, I think he's ahead on points, and talking about how this guy's winning the match. He's in the advantage, resetting the viewer in the middle of it to say, this is the guy with the advantage. Watch for the comeback here. And they were focused on the match itself and helped tell the story. The way JR said, they provide the music and we provide the lyrics.
Yep. Anything else you want to bring up, Griffin, before we sign off tonight? Anything else in any of these segments? Orange Cassidy and Claudio had a nice match.
I can watch Claudio versus an underdog 8 days a week. If I was to write out my favorite matches, that's not a top 5. I'm volunteering because that would be very hard to write. But among my top matches would be Claudio when he wrestled Sami Zayn. I love watching him against an underdog, win or lose. He even knows how to win in a way that says he did not win dominantly, even though he should have.
Yeah.
And then we did not talk about, right after Halloween, why didn't you do this a week ago? The big monster that you have on your roster, busting through the wall like he is a horror monster gone babyface, and he is going to chase down the bad guy. The way he busted through that wall made me just want to watch more horror movies, but I've usually burnt my wife out by the end of October.
Stokely holding the door, but going, I've been trying to get them out all day, was also kind of a blast.
Yeah.
Delivering
Stokely is the annoying heel you want to see get his ass kicked is fantastic.
Yeah. Yep. Cool. Well, Griffin, thank you. Appreciate it. Remind people where they should be going and to your store and online.
Yeah. So nerdstalgia.shop is our hub site for everything. Podcast is Nerdstalgia Shop on YouTube. TikTok, Facebook, Instagram's all the ones that I use, which are 4 too many, but in business you have to do those things. So nerdstalgia.shop. If you're in Colorado, we're the Citadel Mall in Colorado Springs. We carry whatever you're nerdy about, video games, comics, movies, music, and wrestling stuff, the toys and collectibles, art, statues, and stuff that you want to have with that. So, and then check out my column in the Torch in the opinion section, the top 5. And
you're so creative with those too. I always look forward to what your topic's going to be. Like, I mean, it's just every week is so different from the previous weeks with what you're coming up with.
Yeah.
I
try to use my ADHD skills for good.
Yeah. All right, everyone, go VIP, PWTorch.com/go VIP. We'd love to have you support what we do, and we'll give you a lot in return for that support. Thanks, Griffin. Thanks, our chat room. Thanks to our caller, our emailer, and everybody else joining us. Comment below, like the show, give us a 5-star rating in your podcast app, all that good stuff. And we'll, and if you haven't yet, be sure you subscribe to the Wade Keller podcast. The flagship yesterday with Rich Fan covers a wide array of topics that is podcast only. Search Wade Keller, subscribe to it. You will not regret it. And there's some classic long form interviews on there on that feed also on a regular basis and other exciting content. So check it out. Search Wade Keller, subscribe, and we'll talk to you all next time.